guys, welcome back to my channel. Also, today's video, I'm going to be going over some books that would be great if you are just starting out with extreme horror, or you want to kind of test and see if extreme horror is right for you. I have some general horror books that are not extreme horror splatterpunk by any means, but are still disgusting and disturbing, and I would start with those first and see how you feel. And then if you're okay, move into some of the other recommendations that I give in this video. Please keep in mind, everyone has completely different triggers and things that offend them. So please, please, please look up trigger warnings. If you know that you have a specific trigger, please do your homework and do not bash me for recommending any of these books or bash the authors. Kind of take that into your own hands and look into them beforehand. But with that being said, if all is good, then I am going to give you some recommendations. I've been getting this question a lot, and I just want to share some good recs if you're not sure if you should read extreme horror or not. The first book that I automatically recommend to everyone who asks me this question is Brother by Anya Ahlborn. It is also my favorite book ever, and it's just a general horror book, but it's about this family, and they're this family of cannibals, and they basically abduct women and torture, kill them, eat them. And our main character, his name is Michael, he does not agree with the things that go on in his family. So you're kind of learning his just inner dialogue and things that he does not agree with that his family is doing. Like I said, this is general horror. None of this happens really on page. Like, a lot of the violence and etc. happens off page. So you're not reading about it, but it's just as equally disturbing and horrific because you're getting the POV from someone that doesn't agree with what's going on. So you feel that inner turmoil. It's just a super bleak and disturbing book. So definitely start with this one first if you haven't read it already. Then I also want to recommend The Troop by Nick Cutter. This is a body horror, survival horror is what I was thinking of. So this is a survival / body horror story about these boys. They're in this Boy Scout troop. So they basically go into the woods and they have their, like, what the hell is his name? Like the troop leader, the scoutmaster, whatever. They go to camp out and they find this man, this emaciated man. And once you learn what happened to this man, next thing you know, they are trapped in the woods with all this craziness happening. I don't want to give anything away, but it's super heavy on body horror. It's disgusting, and there's also one or two like pretty horrific animal cruelty scenes. So definitely be aware of this one if it is your trigger, or look it up. I believe there's like somewhere online that tells you where that happens. You can literally just skip that part if you want. But yeah, definitely recommend this one for body horror. Sticking to the theme of body horror, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. This is a short little novella about a woman who, I believe she was on like this Craigslist type site looking to purchase an apple corer. Apple corer. And you're basically getting the dialogue between her and this person that is interested, and you're just going back and forth between like emails. And where this goes, it's wild. It's another body horror one. Not super graphic, but it's super disgusting. Next is Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. This is a horror book about a world where animal meat goes poisonous and people start factory farming humans as their meat. So it is a book about cannibalism. You are literally on the farm looking at, like, picture a farm with cows in your head, but only it's humans. It's very bleak, very depressing, but has a lot to say. It's very well done, beautifully written, and I highly, highly recommend if you can stomach this one. It is an amazing read. Okay, so next, all the books are going to be extreme horror. So these are not super, super extreme horror, like I said, but they do fall into the category of extreme horror. So the first one I wanted to start with is Gone to See the Riverman by Christopher Triana. This is a book where there's a woman that is obsessed with a serial killer named Edmund, and she's trying to be his #1 groupie, but he's in prison. And he tells her that if she wants to be his #1, she has to go fetch this key from a chest and then deliver it to a figure only known as the Riverman. What happens is disgusting, but not super, super graphic. It's not violent, it's not bloody, it's not gory, it's just like gross. I don't want to say what that is because it will literally spoil some like important parts of the book, but just say the unsettling atmosphere. Christopher Triana's writing is immaculate, and just the way that he like merges the plot with the atmosphere of the book, so good. I'm obsessed with this one of my favorite books of all time. Then I have 100% Match by PC3. This one is super short, but we're following this guy who is trying to find his 100% match. So he is constantly like, he rattles off all these statistics. He's like Patrick Bateman. He's like, oh, girls only like men with a medium olive tan. 97% of girls like guys with a medium olive tan. So every day I walk for 3 miles. Like, it's just, he's crazy, okay? So that is this book. And then we are slowly following him as he finds his 100% match. So good. Not super, super, super extreme, but I know a lot of people said that they found this one gross, so to each their own. Like I said, everyone likes different things, okay? Next is Dino, Gore by Otis Bateman. This one's another teeny tiny little book, but this one we are following this kid Dex as he finds a crate that contains a dinosaur in modern times. We are just following these kids as they now have a dinosaur loose in present day, and we're just like finding out what happens. Now, I will say this book does feature some deaths, child deaths. Are they super, super graphic? No. Like I said, I would recommend this for a beginner, but don't get mad at me because a child died in this book, okay? If that's something that you can't handle, do not read this one. But like I said, it's not super graphic. So do with that information what you will, okay? This is True Crime by Samantha Kolesnick. This one is about a girl and her brother who are in this abusive household with their mother, and basically one day they decide to kill their mom, and then after they kill her they go on a road trip. It is wild. It is nuts. There are some animal cruelty scenes and some violent scenes. This one wasn't horrible. This was one of the first extreme horror books I ever read. So I wouldn't say that this is horrible, but I would say this one is a little more extreme than some of the other ones that I just mentioned. Next is It's Me, Charlie. This one is a short little book, again, about a stalker. So this is about a guy who is obsessed with this female author, and he creates a fake Instagram account and pretends to be like her bookish bestie, and basically gets her address by telling her that she won a contest, and that's all I'm gonna say. It is disgusting. It's not super, super graphic, but it's gross. Like, people have said that they were like traumatized and ready to puke reading this book. I didn't feel that way, but it is like terrifying. With the whole stalker aspect, oh my gosh, like the stalker thing is something that really freaks me out really badly. So although I wasn't like super obsessed with this one, it did freak me out. So I would recommend this, and especially if you're a beginner, I think this one would be a good gauge to see kind of like where you fall, if this is something that you can handle, or if you should just like stick to general horror. Next is The Black Farm by Elias Witherow. This is about this couple. They just lost a child, and so obviously triggers for that. And they decide to end their lives, but when they wake up, we're mostly following the main character, the husband. So when he wakes up, he notices he's on the Black Farm, which is basically purgatory. So you're like trapped on this farm where there's all this torture, trigger warning for that, torture and just abuse and craziness. Just these people are just doing vile, depraved things to you over and over and over. But if you die or try to like unalive yourself, basically you just keep waking up on this black farm over and over and over and over again. So he is trying to break the cycle and go find his wife. And I would say this one is a great beginner's extreme horror book, but it is a little more graphic than some of the other books, like I mentioned. Next is Only the Stains Remain by Ross Jeffrey. This is a book about these two brothers, I believe they were. Their mother just passed away, and they basically, their three uncles move in with them, and their uncles are super, super abusive and vile, disgusting human beings. And this is a book about revenge. So we are following this main character as he tries to get revenge on his uncles and what they did to him. There is animal cruelty in this book. I have steered a couple people away from this one in the past because of the animal cruelty scenes, but that was only just like a brief moment. The overall theme is, you know, revenge for abuse. So obviously triggers for that, but the abuse and like gore, a lot of it happens off page. So you're really not reading like chapters and chapters of like people being tortured and stuff like that. It's just like it explains that it happened, but it happens off page. So it's not super, super graphic in detail, if that makes sense. And then the last book that I have, speaking of revenge, I think I mentioned all these books. Yeah, so the last book that I have, speaking of revenge, this is a little more graphic than some of the other books, but this is The Harbinger of Vengeance by John Athen. I'm obsessed with him. He's one of my favorite authors of all time, and this is a book about a man who is getting revenge for one of his bullies from high school. So this guy like bullied him really badly, and now he is basically bullying him as a 30-year-old adult and making him do the things that he made him do in high school. But now these things have a little bit of an extreme horror, like torture kind of twist to them. Like, hey, you made me do this, so now I'm gonna make you do that, but like a little more fucked up. So that's the vibe of this one. Not horrible. I would say the ending is pretty graphic, but yeah, there were depictions of torture, like I said, and just violence and gore, but I don't think it was over the top, whereas a lot of his other books are super, like, super graphic. So you know what? I would recommend this one. If you think you can push the boundaries and want to try it out, go for it. I think this one might be a great gauge for where your threshold of gore lies. But yeah, that is it. I hope you guys found some recommendations and found this video helpful, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!